Bush Jr., Benjamin Netanyahu and other senior nazionists to be arrested soon. Benjamin Fulford, July 21, 2014. The arrest of nazionist mass murderers like George Bush Jr. and Benjamin Netanyahu and their fellow Kabbalists is imminent, according to Mossad and other sources. These criminals and their fellow top Kabbalists have already been banned from traveling to over 180 countries and soon will be banned from traveling outside of their jail cells, the sources said. The downing of remote-controlled Israeli-owned so-called Malaysian Airlines flight MH17, filled with dead and decomposing bodies, was one dirty trick too many for the nazionists, and a turning point against them has now been reached within the world's secret agencies and governments, according to multiple sources. What we first saw in Syria we are now seeing in the Ukraine, a failed attempt to use a manufactured incident to start a war. The nazionists created sarin gas attacks on civilians in Syria and now dead HIV scientists in the Ukraine, and used it to try to fool the US military into attacking. Only this time in the Ukraine, even more so than was the case with Syria, nobody is taking the bait. We can see this in the nazionist-controlled corporate propaganda media Attack Russia PR campaign. For example, UK Nazionist puppet Prime Minister David Cameron has asked German PM Angela Merkel and French President François to press for more sanctions against Russia's Vladimir Putin, but this is just a PR stunt according to MI5 sources. Cameron had to do that because he was being blackmailed by a Nazionist media baron with threats to publicize his cocaine habit and his wife's heroin addiction, the sources continued. In any case, in the past such a public campaign by Nazionist puppet leaders and the corporate propaganda media was used to condition the masses to accept an upcoming military event. Now though, nobody is buying it. No army is ready to do their bidding, and even most the hired goons have stopped listening to them. Furthermore, the internet and social media part of the Nazionist campaign to vilify Russia has been a total wipeout, say sources in MI5 and other agencies. For example, the YouTube presented as proof of rebel and Russian cooperation was shown to have date stamps from before the shootdown. The tweets from a Spanish air traffic controller in Ukraine actually came from London. The internet Putin assassination angle was fake. Putin is too smart to overfly Ukraine, and the film being shown of the plane being shot down was from the daytime, even though the plane was supposed to have been shot down at night. They are clearly losing the plot. This entire Malaysian plane incident is being managed out of the State Department and by the RAND Corporation, according to US-based CIA sources. Now Germany and France are so disgusted by the Nazionist stunts being run out of Washington, D.C. and Tel Aviv, they have decided to join the BRICS alliance, according to CIA sources in Europe. The Germans and French are systematically purging their governments of Nazionist agents. And for good reason. The fake Malaysian plane filled with bodies from the morgue stunt was the Nazionist response to the announcement last week by the BRICS nations they had set up a development bank and a financial stabilization fund as a way to bypass the cabal-controlled World Bank and IMF. Think about it. Here we have a group supported by over 188 nations announcing a plan to peacefully build economic infrastructure, and the US and Israeli Nazionist puppet governments react by shooting down a plane. Huh? The other reactions were to brutalize the Gaza Strip and keep pumping up a fake immigrant crisis in the US. Furthermore, the WDS was also sent a whole new series of threats by these Nazionist thugs last week. According to the latest threats, World War III has started, the U.S. armed forces are ready to invade Russia, etc. Do not believe it for a minute. As mentioned before, the armed forces of Russia, China, the United States and elsewhere have already come to an agreement to never let themselves be fooled into starting another world war. Also, the campaign to rebrand the Muslim Brotherhood as ISIS is falling apart as the ever more ridiculous pronouncements coming out of ISIS via Jerusalem are becoming a joke. Check out this link for an example. What we are witnessing is clearly the endgame for the nazionists. Let us recap some of the big changes that have taken place in the campaign to oust these psychopathic killers from the top levels of world power. The Queen of the Netherlands plus the kings of Spain and Belgium have resigned, the top Warburg family member committed suicide, Richard Rockefeller died, Senator J. Rockefeller resigned, Pope Malevolent resigned, 200 Nazi U.S. military officers have been fired, former French President Sarkozy was arrested, and now, last week 660 pedophiles were arrested in the UK. The Vatican has also fired over 400 pedophiles and is continuing a major purge of the Catholic Church. The Vatican Bank, which was used by the cabal to bribe world leaders, has shut down over 3,000 corrupt accounts. We also received an email last week from a source in a major charitable foundation who said, Bush Sr. passed away on Friday apparently from food poisoning. I hear bad fish. This has been confirmed via his personal security. It should hit the news sometime this week. However, subsequently he was trotted out for a photograph in a local newspaper near his family's estate in Maine. In the picture, Nazionist Führer Bush Sr. appears to be resorting to his old trick of acting senile, which he is not. Bush is not going to avoid arrest by pretending to be a poor senile old man. He is one of history's worst mass murderers and will face justice, you can count on it. The slow unraveling of the Nazionist stealth takeover of the United States will continue its now unstoppable path. The Zionist brainwashed slave colony known as Israel will also be freed. If the so-called Jews, the word did not exist until the 19th century, study the history of Babylon, they will find out that circumcision was historically something that was done to the males of defeated slave races. The Europeans who have been brainwashed into thinking they came from ancient Judea will be set free. The world as a whole is well along in the process of being freed from Babylonian debt slavery. There is expected to be a lot going on this autumn after a summer lull. Hopefully, if we all push for it, we will finally have or fall of the Berlin Wall, or fall of the Babylon Fed ziggurat, type of event in the US then.